of the good times. I think growing up on a farm, you learn a lot of discipline and a lot of good things about life, and I would hope my kids would learn that too. My dad practiced a lot of, and my mother both, about helping other people, and it seems like farm life was just open to that, and I hope they learn it too.
Oh. Do you remember milking, Doris? Did you ever have to do the milking?
No, I didn't, but I remember I remember my brothers milking the cows and spraying, and the cats drinking the stream of milk as they were milking. That was kind of cool. But they did the milking. I didn't have to do the milking. I drove the tractors and did things like that.
What were some of the chores you remember?
The chores I remember: mowing the lawn, driving the tractor, shoveling the grain, lifting bales, things like that.
What was it like being the youngest out of all of those kids? Do you think you got any special treatment?
Well, the older ones say I got special treatment, and I probably did, but they all went to the Ringling Brothers Circus and I didn't, because the only reason really was because it was no longer coming here. Just ask them, I'm sure they'll tell you I was favored.
Well, any last words as you think about having the homestead move out of the Schneider hands?
No, it's happy for Louie that he can move on, but it's sad otherwise. So.
Yeah, a lot of memories here.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, Doris.
Okay.
Say that again, Doris. What were the games? Red light, green light?
Red light, green light, kick the can, mother may I, eeny, einy, over. What others, Marie?
Get in here, Marie.
You know, I noticed before on one of the pictures we used to play a lot of pick-up sticks.
Oh, yes, in Jacks. The game of Jacks. Sorry, the game of Sorry. Monopoly. Things like that. But we really had fun when the cousins came over and we could play these outside games. Hide and seek around the trees in the house, and things like that, was because we had so many trees. And I don't know, the older ones probably did different things than us younger ones did.
Do you think life was much different for Doris as it was for you, Marie? Oldest to youngest girls here? Well, by the time Doris was around, they had electricity already, didn't they? Is that right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
All right. Okay.
I think it was a lot different.
Hey, Chris?
Well, how many years difference between the two of you? 13 years, huh? All right. Thanks. Thanks.
And then the only time Dad would get excited when we was under that granary is if we dug the holes too deep, because he was worried about we'd undermine the footers. But we used to have big holes and haul stuff back and forth, just play on the kids right underneath there all the time. Did that. Oh yeah, that was a big deal. They'd know to come and look for us there.
You used to dig holes, did you say, Al?
Oh yes, we dig big holes, just play in the dirt. It was just a dirt place to play. Right underneath that, under the granary. Oh yeah.
What else did you used to do, Al? Tell us.
There used to be right over here, about where that milk parlor is right there. There was a big apple tree. Us boys used to always climb in there, and we'd own. Believe it or not, we would own these branches. That's my branch, and we climbed that area. And then we would sell them back and forth, of course, and then we saw them, and then Mother and Dad just go out there and pick all the apples and bring them in, and Mother would make something. But us kids, as boys, always, that's my branch, that's your branch. We set them all right over there. This used to be an orchard out in here.
Oh.
An orchard, and then we'd always have 2 or 3 or 4 camps. Our ball games would be right out in here. On Sundays, we'd always play ball.
And what else? What were the other camps? That was the ball field. What were these other areas?
Well, about on that side where that rubber, beyond that, it was fields. There always was fields out there. And then there was a fence just a little bit further than that side of the building. Then that was the hog yard. There was about 2 acres in there where the hogs always roamed. But we didn't do too much there other than the hogs always roamed in there.
What were some of your fondest memories of growing up here, Al?
Well, just the kinds of things I was talking about.
The game.
Well, you probably didn't hear, but when I told some of them where it's a building over on the other side where we had the hog yard. They used to years ago have a dinner bell.
Uh-huh.
And that's when the farmers had horses, and they'd always have it on a post or ring when lunch or dinner was there. Us kids would go up there and ring it. I can still always remember Mother and Dad say, "Quit that! The neighbors will hear that. They'll wonder what's wrong." Us kids used to get a big kick out of it, though.
Ringing the bell?
Oh yeah.
Well, what will you miss most about the farm?
Oh, I don't know. It's just kind of where we grew up, I guess. Just fond memories of when he was young.
What do you want your kids and grandkids to know about life on the farm?
These are my best memories.
I don't know.
This is my best memory.
They don't go look at the cows and we go find the cats.
Oh.
Kathy would go show us the new cat litter.
Oh, so you have memories of coming to Grandma and Grandpa's.
Well, actually, that's really when I was over with Aunt Karen's. But
Oh.
The thing I would probably remember the most is Dad used to always pitch wherever we'd play ball on Sundays out here when we had a big group. We'd always play over there. Dad would always be in the middle of it pitching from both sides. You could go get him out of the house if he wasn't working. He'd always come out and do that. It was always just a nice memory.
Were there really times where you didn't have to work, Al?
A lot.
There were,
A
huh?
lot.
Huh. Okay, Jim and Al.
You want to go have the cat suck on your thumb?
Well, okay. You demonstrate first. Just like a bottle, huh?
Yeah.
Daddy, when I point at my finger,
There's nothing there. Yeah.
So, what's it like to think about walking around here for, I don't know, maybe last time?
It's just so much different than it used to be. But it just brings back a lot of memories.
Like what?
Oh, just, being out with the animals. I like the animals. I still do. So, but it's kind of hard to describe because it's so different.
What were, you mean, you enjoyed like doing the chores with the animals, feeding them?
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Did you have favorites that you would name and pretend they...
Oh, well, when we were young, we named all of our cows, all of the milking cows.
How many did you have?
Well, we only milked about 12 or 15 cows at the time.
So
Every one of them had a name. We named them all mostly after cartoon characters.
Like what? What would some of the
Like
names?
Blondie and Whitey and Bumstead, a female cow named Bumstead. Dagwood. Oh gosh. Well, of course we had a Whitey and a Blackie and wow, I can't remember the names of all of them anymore. Oh yeah, we named them all. And yeah, we sort of had favorites. Some of them were a little bit rougher when we milked them, so some you liked and others you didn't. Especially when we milked by hand, there were certain ones that we didn't really want to have to milk. But
because they were a little rough?
Yeah, some of them would kick. Pardon?
were you in the middle? What's your
Matthew, is that cow licking his finger?
what's that cow doing?
Aunt Maria.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Is that funny? He's like, I'm not sure I like it anymore.
So your grandkids won't be able to see like on an everyday basis that you got to experience, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm scared it.
Any funny memories that you have? Funny stories?
You mean about being out in the barn
Yep.
and whatnot? Oh
Go wash your
gosh,
hands, or-
it's hard to pick. You know, I can't. I wish I could think of a specific one, but you know, the kinds of things that would happen, like you know, if we had a fresh cow, a fresh heifer, and we had to get in the barn to milk, and a lot of times there was a lot of excitement, trying to get a new cow trained to, you know, to get it in the barn and to milk it.
On my hair. Okay, go ahead.
It's one of, you know, it's the kind of thing now that we look back at it, and sometimes it's pretty funny, but at the time, you know, we were, you know, mostly interested in just getting the job done, and you get kind of frustrated. But you know, it's like a lot of things. You can look back at it now, and it's kind of funny.
So compare life back then to life now.
Oh gosh, it was a lot simpler, you know, life in general. But I guess in the farming operation was, you know, a lot more manual. I'd like to say physical. It's still physical, but we did a lot more personal care, you know, in terms of how we fed the cows, you know, because there weren't very many cows, so you sort of, you know, you gave them a fork full of corn silage or a fork full of hay, and like with the calves, we fed the calves out of a bucket that we held in our hand, and we'd train a calf how to drink out of a pail. I suppose they have to do that now yet, but it was, you know, real seemed more personal, just because there were fewer of them, I guess.
It's kind of hard to name. How many cows are there now in the
Here, I have no idea.
400 or so.
Oh,
Kind of hard to have.
I'm sure it's more than that. I imagine. I don't know. There's probably 1,000 cows here in the barn, you know, in total. Whereas back then, we probably had a total of 25 or 30 most of the time. So it was an entirely different scale. But it's probably like a lot of things. When we did it, there were a lot of times when it was very tedious. It was a task that we had to get done. Especially as we got into our later teen years, doing chores in the evening interfered with us being able to go away in the evening. So we were mostly interested in getting the job done so we could go. Especially on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. Those were our nights out. So we were mostly interested in just getting the job done, and probably a lot of times didn't appreciate it as much as you do when you look back at it. So.
Any other last thoughts, final words?
Oh gosh, I'll think of something after a while.
All right, thanks.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30. They've got 30 pens here of new calves. We probably never had more than 2 or 3 at any one time. You know, little calves like this. So it's just, again, the scale is so much different. I can't believe what you know, some of the things used to look like. You forget until you see the pictures. It brings back memories. Just kind of well, you just don't remember what it used to look like. So it was nice seeing the old pictures.
Yeah.
We'll play football. You know, in school, and I had the football. I got done with that, and I got to the game that night, and he was playing a poor team. I remember that. And the coach says, "Where were you goofing off at today?" He figured I skipped for the day, and I said, "Well, Dad was filling sidewall, and I had to stay home." He didn't believe me. and we got way ahead in this other team. I was the only guy that didn't get a break. He kept me in there playing both ways the whole game. He thought I had taken the day off without coming to school, so I paid the price. You know what happened though? We was way ahead, and he just I said, "Give me a break. Let the other guys play," because we only had 16 guys for 11-man team then. So you didn't have too much time to play both ways anyway. It was, we went there. You guys have more kids in the classes.
So this was where the old barn used to be?
Yeah. Got a big red barn was there.
Uh-huh. So what year did this go up?
Oh, you're gonna stretch my memory now. Probably was 70 something.
Oh.
Late 70s, I said.
Uh-huh.
We just tore it down because it was obsolete. We didn't,
Well, you had those
It didn't
old
burn.
wooden beams with the wood pegs that held them in place yet, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
It was the old wood beams on them, the pegs held all of them in place like you see sometime in the old construction. They didn't have them spiked like that. They had them with pegs. We had one light in that barn, Lou. We had one light in that barn on the barn floor and in the cow barn.
I don't know. You had enough.
Up high in the barn floor. And then we had one in the milking pump.
So you got to tell them about the days of bag tag out here and all that.
Yeah, tell us.
We used to.
Well, these barns had two levels of it, and they had probably a beam yay wide that would run all around the mouths, and we play bag tag. And bag tag is nothing more than a game that you take a bag and tie it in a knot and throw it at somebody, and whoever you hit is it. It's his turn to get something else.
And the problem was this, if the barn was quite empty, those beams were a little dangerous. You might be up there 20 feet running across that beam and nothing down below to catch you.
We'd run around them beams, and I tell you, it's an awful lot more dangerous than that swing set. Didn't seem to bother anybody at all.
I remember Brina, Thale, and my sister Maria were with me one time in a barn. They pulled me up on those slings in the middle, on the slings up, and they let it drop, and I dropped all the way down. Well, I was out when I came down. I remember coming down. But all of a sudden, all I remember is coming to, and Mother was out there, and I got up and walked away from it. And that's the last time they gave me a ride up like that.
There were just days and days spent in the old barns up for the kids.
It was past time for the kids. We didn't
There was
have
no
places.
TV, you know.
No, there was no TV or anything. Heck, I know not even much radio at that time when I was there.
Mother's favorite deal was when we started arguing or fighting too much is you kids go out in the barn and play.
Now, if we didn't want to go to sleep Sunday afternoon.
That's the way.
Do you have
it
a
was.
basketball hoop in there?
We had one, but it wasn't. We didn't have room for 10 foot. It was like what, probably 8.5.
8.5 feet tall, it's all taller
Or
could be.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also, if we didn't want to go to sleep Sunday afternoon, we'd go out in the barn and play. As long as we stayed out there and played, then we didn't have to take a nap Sunday afternoon. I remember the rule too. You
You
remember that?
really spent your time interacting like all summer long with the neighbor kids.
Yeah.
That was a
Well, I told you
daily
that earlier.
ongoing
On
deal.
Sunday afternoon, that was big, right there where that orchard was there. The neighbor kids would come here and we'd play ball in there on Sunday afternoon.
But it was just a given. You made your,
Yeah. Oh, we'd go to their place sometimes too. And play.
you'd make your turns around.
Yeah, you'd go to the neighbors some Sunday afternoon, but that was the place we played. You always remember your own more than the neighbors.
So what else do you remember about the buildings?
Oh, I don't know. I remember tearing more of them down than I do building them down. I was telling Ed earlier as we were walking by them silos that you got the small silo on the end here, and the first one I built was the one next to it. And I can remember, I was Grandpa moved off maybe 2 years, and I bought that silo in the winter, or they were going to build it in the spring, and I kind of told him that I was going to do it, and I could see the reaction wasn't real favorable. So we just didn't talk about it anymore. And we got into like June or whatever, and they called and they're going to build it. So I thought I better tell him. And so I told them they're coming to build that silo next week. And well, he kind of wanted to make sure I was going to go through with it, and what I was going to do. And I said, well, it's going to go up. So from there, I went into the fall, and we were chopping away and filling, and all once I told him one day it's full, and he had a smile from ear to ear that it was full. And then we went along. What capped it off was during the winter. He'd been telling me all after it was up how big that silo looked. And he drove in here one winter day. He says, "Man, that little silo looks small every time." And he changed his whole picture from looking at one as being big to looking at the other one, which was truly small.
Well, Lou, but
Just changed the philosophy. It was really.
Lou, but the funny part of it was when you built that first one there that you're talking about, the other one that was over here, you could put that inside there. That was when I was a kid. That was the style.
Yeah, there was 3 of them would go inside there.
Yeah, in that one, that was the difference. The smallest one out there, the old one, you could have put 3 of those into that one.
What were some of the things you did in the barns when you played?
Well, the big ones was bag tag. I mean, and that playing under the hay bales, digging tunnels through the hay. So that was a annual event.
Yeah, well, then you had the basketball hoop there, but it really never was really good because we didn't have a concrete. It was a dirt floor.
Dirt floor, but
And the
we'd
basket
still.
couldn't be high enough, the regulation, because the beams for the hay mow came down too far there where there was hay on top of it.
We'd still have shootouts though, and the same things that kids do today.
What about some of the chores that you dreaded and some of the chores that you didn't mind doing?
I don't know if we dreaded them or not. Maria, we really didn't know no better.
We did them.
Yeah, we didn't know any better.
I knew I had to milk those cows in the morning before I went to school, so I got up.
Alfred Elfman told me one day it's just a habit. But we just knew that every day we were milking cows.
And Lou,
You really didn't question
Lou,
it.
there's one thing that you could understand, though, that I could from Dad, and that was this. That if you played all night, you better be ready to work the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Because usually if he knew we played all night, he'd have some extra work for us that day. First electric lights, 1942. I remember when that.
What was that like?
Well, we tried every light in the house, and that was a big thing. We had 2 lights in the barn then, one where we milk cows and one up in the mile shining down. There was just 2 lights in there, and we thought it was great. And the house, you had the ones you screw in bulbs. Upstairs, we had 1 in each room then. So we had electricity and we had power. That was great.
Have to bring a chair?
We gotta mix in.
Let's see, we got 1, 2,
Hey, dog.
3, 4, 5, 6. Louie and Jim.
That's it?
Yeah.
Are you going to ask questions? Anyone else who's interested? Anyone else who's interested in just hearing the stories and culture?
Would you like seeing those cows?
There's a chair here, look.
Too smelly.
Get to be a chair.
Make a good farm girl.
Should we make it more simple?
I'm pull in because right now I got to pan back and forth.
About 5, 6 kids follow him down in the basement.
Have a zip.
We gotta get
They have a sip, and I got so much of that, that's why I don't drink it.
Yeah.
You don't want it. Well, how do you know?
Hey, Brian.
Well, Dale.
Oh
You're
yeah.
gonna have to.
Yeah.
You have to participate.
I'll tell you what I remember is the old metal pitcher.
Yeah, we talked about that. I said I should have asked Don. He might have
We
had
always have to have a sip of Dad's cider when we're
I don't know.
Somebody.
Oh, that was important that you went down with
You know,
that cider
Betty,
pitcher and it was
that's
always just one
yucky for
pitcher at a
you.
time. You couldn't.
It's the only thing I remember cider getting drawn into just about.
It's so bright. It's not.
I think it'll self-adjust. It's on auto there, I think.
We always, right? Or is that holes? Is always.
Oh, you're recording.
You got it on.
Yeah.
You want to try one?
What? Oh yeah, we would always have to go down and get that. I know what you're talking about, Sal. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Who did get that cider pitcher?
But you do have memories. You see, like our kids.
Hey, Stav.
And I remember what you two is you would come on
Catch a
vacation
couple
and
pictures
then
here.
Chuck would beg your mother to bring you over here, or vice versa. Maybe Chuck was here. And I can remember one time one of you was on vacation, and then she came with the other one, and you two went over there on a sand pile and just played like peaceful little guys. But the minute she said she got you home,
Yeah, is that my seat?
Yeah.
Someone's gonna have to manage the cider pitcher. Of course, in those days, Ed, they didn't use glasses. did
Okay,
they?
Lucy, we haven't talked to you yet. What are some of your memories of the farm here?
Where did that? Whoever got that old gallon cider jug that we put the corncob pipe in that we'd always carry the fills with us whenever we run the combine or haul hay. We'd always have that gallon jug full of cider we'd take it, remember? You'd have that gallon?
Had the gallon jug, but they had a flowing well and we set that in that water and there's something nice and cold.
So we hid behind that tree.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had a flowing well there.
And then Mother and Dad came out of the woodshed at that time and looked around. And I'm sure that I was peeking out because I saw that. And they spotted us.
Well, Lucy, that tree's still there. Which one?
Okay, I want to hear this. I want to hear the story about the cider, from the cider barrels.
That's what I thought.
Okay, Louie, he wants to hear the story about the cider barrels.
Well, there's stories of the cider.
Jen's in charge of that.
Dale's still wondering where that cider pitcher is. Every time there was any kind of a party, there always had to be that cider pitcher. It was a metal one.
That's right.
They'd always, somebody'd have to go down there and fill that up, bring it up. There's a card party. They always have it.
And what was left over at the end of the card party that was poured into the winning barrel.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Jim, you're in charge of the cider story?
Well, I think you want to hear the story about the hose, the cider hose. That's the interesting thing. So you have to understand the cider barrel. We didn't have a spigot on the barrel. We just had a tap in the top of the barrel, and we had this long rubber hose that we'd stick in the top of the barrel and then siphon cider out and run it into fill a glass up. And when the glass is full, you just put your finger over the end of the hose. Then the next guy'd pass his glass along and you'd fill up the next glass. When you got that full, you'd put your finger over the end of the hose.
Did you used to participate?
When you got all done, you just kind of lifted the hose up, drained the hose back into the barrel, and you wound the hose up and laid it on top of the barrel. And it was ready to go the next time you wanted some more cider. Al claims the hose got washed once a year. I don't ever remember that.
I think you got cleaned once a year.
You think it did?
I think when the barrel got washed out for the next time.
No, I think they rinsed the hose.
Did you used to participate in that, Marie? Did you used to participate in that?
Well, yes, I was just telling them before that I was with that 6 or 7 that followed Dad in the basement every noon before we ate. And I got so much of that, and that's why I don't drink today. I got too much then.
We always would have to, whenever we were small, we'd go down there, he'd fill up the glass. We'd always get a little zip out of it, and then we'd be on our way. We always did that.
So some of us been really wondering, or at least around these circles, Ed, when we talk with some of the younger farmers around now, that they always talked how hard they worked in those days. We're trying to figure that out. The town had a third as many people. They had 4 caverns, and they were all busy. How did these people get that time if they were working so hard?
Well, the difference
Maybe you could fill us in there a little.
I can think the time, everything that you feel is necessary at your house today wasn't even in existence when I was born.
But they were working so hard. How did them bars ever make it?
I don't know. But just think about it, though. Because I remember that so well, though. All the things we have in our house or you have here just were not in existence when I was. Electricity in 1942, Marie. I remember you and I went around tying all the lights off.
I remember it was a lot of pull chains.
Yeah, they were all pull chains at that time. We had 2 lights in the barn, one for the barn floor and one for the milk.
And we was asking, when was the running bathroom put in the house there? What year?
I don't remember, in the 40s.
I got it 5 years old, my first.
It's in the 40s.
It's in the 40s then.
Yeah, early 40s, because we had electricity before the bathroom was there.
I know the bathroom was there, but by the time I can remember, but I can always remember talking about it. I knew it wasn't
Your favorite
long
company
there.
wouldn't come in here and put the lines in, so they got to hurry to do it.
Ed, what'd you do with the catalogs after you had a bathroom?
Well, we had a special place for the catalogs. You know, the catalogs never went to waste. See, I told Lou, you see that tree right over there? Just beyond that tree, that was the place you had to go at night if you felt necessary, no matter how cold it was.
And you didn't. You saved on toilet paper because Sears catalogs came in very handy at that time. Never nothing that didn't get used.
That's exactly, the driveway went around behind it that time. I don't know if you remember being there yet, Jim?
Oh, Ed, remember when they moved the outhouse from there back there?
Yeah.
That night they had a big party when they moved the outhouse from there to back there. Ben Ulrich left the party for a little while and he came back. Uncle Joe or somebody did. They came back. That outhouse sat out there beside the chicken coop and was laid on its side. They didn't smash it, but somebody laid it on its side. Figured they put somebody up to it that we moved the outhouse on a party and they laid it on its side back there.
But the only thing is this.
Everybody was in the house playing. The men were in the house playing the cards.
But I'll never forget it though. I was with Ben and Ben Ulrich was here. He knew where they came in with their car. He ran down there and tried to get the gate closed so they couldn't get out of there. And I'll tell you, he was lucky. I remember that because I was with him there, but he didn't get there, and those guys didn't run into him when they pulled out of there because he was trying to get the gate closed. They never did know that, how close they had been to that. But we found out later that the guys that did it fell in the water tank here the same night.
They did?
Yeah, a couple of them fell in the water tank.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, go ahead.
Should I repeat it?
Yeah.
M21 was built in 1929 by prisoners. Water was piped from the Stony Creek, and they had a major leak on Louis Thalen or Claude Thalen's farm. And in 1941, we had the first bike for 9 kids. 1938, REA Electric came in.
38, I was thinking it was later.
38 for 9 kids? We weren't all here.
No, 1941.
We weren't all here.
You weren't, well, I see that's my year. What year were you born?
44.
But that first bike lasted through all 9 kids.
Oh, it sure did.
Yeah.
That bike sure did.
So maybe
I've got a scar right on my stomach if you want to see it. That first bike.
I remember a few.
Is that second-hand one that we
Yeah,
got?
show us.
The new one, the first one we got was the second-hand one?
You know how we got that bike was, John Chirpus lived on the corner and he'd come down here with that bike and us kids were riding, or learning to ride on it. And I guess Mom and Dad thought, that's fun enough of that, we'll get our own. And that's the only bike we ever had.
They got one other. They got one other after that.
Did you have 2 bikes?
Yeah.
We had 2 bikes when us. I can remember the second. I can remember the second when they got the second bike. I can't remember when they got the first bike.
So you don't think 1938 is right for the REA?
Because World War II was already started when the REA came in. Well, we got lights here. Now, maybe they had them up to their place up there. I don't know. Because see, sometimes different roads depends where they were.
Well, what was the reason then? Now, like Jules C. Thalen, they had it 2 years before us, and the consumers. What was the reason for that?
Consumers wouldn't put the lines in.
Yeah. So REA was started
REA was
to get
started
electric.
rural electrification.
Which was the government program
Yeah.
to get electric
The
out.
electric to the farmers. So that's what
right.
it was.
We got the bathroom in 1940.
Okay.
So then we had the electricity in 38, thank you. 1940, but we had electricity before we had the bathroom.
We had a 36 Plymouth. Now, is this right? Ellis Chalmers, 1945?
Yep. I remember that. WC.
But you probably
And then in
never
46
I
was
was
the
going to tell you
combine, wasn't
44,
it?
but
I did.
Combine was 1 year later, yeah.
That's
that was
right.
at Minneapolis Moline.
And I can remember pulling that in, the combine, not the tractor, the combine in that north driveway there, and they had it halfway up in, and that ditch was too deep, and they had trouble because
Well, they were pulling it with a pickup, and they got stuck with it.
yeah, coming up that driveway with the combine.
there's a
That's
picture
right.
of that big tractor and combine there at the table.
Milk parlor was built in 1960, the first one,
That could be.
right? 1953, they bought the McCrangle farm.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that would be right.
I remember buying it. They bought that.
I guess that's about all the dates.
See, I was wrong on electricity then. That's where I had it confused.
I got that figure from Maxine.
That could be right. I'm not, like I say, the years go by.
I went, oh, all I know is that I always remember talking about that. We got pictures. We got Ed yours. Jim's got pictures. He felt a little embarrassed to bring him along. That with that septic tank that sat there when the first one gave way, I shoveled it out to clean it out to put the new septic tank in. Jim's got one of those at home. He wouldn't bring the picture along.
I bet everything was done by the new health rules too when they handled that thing.
Yeah.
Well, I had rubber boots on.
Any memories about the holidays?
Big holidays counted outside of Christmas.
I would hate to tell you, Dale, but if you was going to talk about holidays, what was a much bigger holiday for us is you should have said holy days.
Yes,
Holy days were
Holy days, nothing like you talk like
Chuck's birthday.
like Ascension Thursday. We got to go. We always would go fishing or something. We didn't work that day. A holy day.
We milk the cows in the morning.
Yeah.
We do something like that.
Well,
Pack
a
a lunch.
holy day would have been a much bigger day to us than a holiday.
Any holy day. You go to church in the morning, get your
You
cows.
didn't work beyond that.
No, we didn't do no work. But then you go holy day, you go fishing that day and have a picnic lunch, come back at night after dark, get the cows home milk.
Sure, but that would be a big day because you didn't work on those days.
Yeah, because that was a free day.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
When we went fishing, you know, we always took like bologna and crackers. Bologna and crackers, that was
The biggest item.
That was
that
just
was
a
a
little
real
bigger
treat.
than pizza is today. Bologna and crackers.
But that was the real treat at that time.
Anytime
At
you
that
didn't want
time.
to cook, that's what came out.
You're right.
Well,
Pizza came out and that went by the
Yep,
wayside.
bologna and crackers went by the wayside. Yep.
I think that we should have the brothers tell you a little bit about how they used to make fudge. About their fudge making.
Oh, yeah. I think not so much we made the fudge. We'd always go out. What I can always remember is when Mother and Dad would go somewhere, the older ones were more of the babysitters, and we were there. We'd have to go out in the barn, crack hickory nuts, clean hickory nuts, and they would make the fudge, but we'd get the hickory nuts and that. That was the treat that we'd make fudge that day when they were gone. And it was interesting because there was no thermometer or anything, and sometimes it would come out kind of soupy, and sometimes it would get over hard and get hard in the pan. But it was good. It was
very
fudge.
customary too that it was your job to watch when somebody's glasses get low. Never let them run out.
Yeah, that's true. You never let the class get it.
I have another date here.
Huh?
They converted the woodshed into a garage in 1959, is that right?
That's probably close. Yeah, that would be close. I remember when they did that. How many of you guys pitched wood in there for the woodshed?
Oh, I did. I can vaguely remember that before the furnace went in.
Oh, I can clearly remember the woodshed when they would throw wood in there. That I didn't do it so much, but I can clearly
Because the
remember.
door
it.
was on the west side. You dropped the door down.
Right.
Yeah.
That brings some other memories too. We had that wood furnace in there. And everybody's furnace was going bad. You had to put oil in it. But ours just never went bad. First year we got married, our furnace came out here.
It went to pot more.
There was no such
just
thing as a coal
Ours
furnace.
just
It was a
seemed to
wood
work
furnace.
So good. Everybody else was going bad.
So it was always the wood.
It was the same
Well,
furnace.
It's the same furnace, but we would have called it a wood furnace instead of a coal furnace.
See, Jim, you remember Dad
You
told
could
us?
burn for
Did you have a chainsaw then or a crosscut?
Very low.
Very
I
little.
remember Dad
Extreme
saying we got
cold in
one
the winter. He
twice.
may get a little cold.
We always had to go get those trees down with a crosscut. And we had horses and we used to pull them up to the end. You didn't send that out. But I don't remember what years they changed it yet because that was just part of doing it and you being a little younger.
How did you guys get along on a crosscut saw?
Yeah, now you better explain
Once
that.
you got the hang,
You better explain that, though.
Dad would teach us how to use the crosscut. You could cut when the log was down. You could cut pretty good. Boy, the real trick is when you had to try to cut horizontally to cut a tree down. Dad would get upset with us a little bit because we just couldn't handle that iron saw.
We were supposed to do as good as he could.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, then once I can remember one time Louie Schmidt stopping.
Yeah, it'd be hard for.
And Dad's trying to teach us how to use that crosscut to cut a tree down. And Louie Schmidt, he says, Louie, let's show these kids. And Louie Schmidt grabs the other end of that saw, and Dad, boy, I tell you, they just went to work and they had a tree cut down, just bingo, just like that. See, it's so simple. It's a trick. It really is a trick to do
Well,
it.
it wasn't. If you did it right, it wasn't that tough a job. If you forced it, it was a terrible job. Man, I'll tell you this, we do that in the wintertime when it's cold to get it upset. Then we go split it after we have it. They bring that buzzing rig in, cut them in pieces. Then we go split the wood and pile it after that.
Did you ever figure out why nobody ever got cut in half with that bus?
It had all the safeguards on it.
All the cider and stuff you drink, eh? And it'd be cold in the winter, you'd have heavy boots on.
Heavy
I
cold.
don't know why anybody, they never got saw that.
Icing and everything
Closest
else.
I got a thing that just was
Yeah, but no, it's icing and everything, yeah.
just I got a little bit of a gash on it, you can just see it.
Yeah.
And when they're talking that, they'd cut 30 to 40 cords of wood in the winter.
Yeah.
A little bit, a lot of wood to eat off.
Always have to cut enough for the next year because his dad wanted it to age for a year so it made better firewood.
Oh yeah.
I gotta see if Alvin and Louie remember. You know, Dad, he always smoked pipe. He smoked that red velvet.
Yeah.
Red velvet tobacco. And he always put his empty tobacco cans up on the top shelf in the closet there. Remember that?
No one's coming.
Well, us guys figured out, you know, when he emptied out those coffee or the tobacco cans, he put them up there in the top of the cupboard. Well, there was always just a little bit of tobacco left in there. So we got one of those empty cans one time. Well, we started collecting that tobacco, you know, after a while. We had I don't know, a third of a can of tobacco or something like that. Well, then I remember the three of us, we went down the road, down here in the ditch. And those guys along the way, we used to collect the ragweed stuff, you know, the
That one
ragweeds.
would turn brown.
The ragweeds would turn brown, you know, we thought that was tobacco. And those guys had the ragweed tobacco, but I had the real stuff.
Yeah, and Jim was the only one who could get it lit.
We got down in a ditch. Of course, Dad would let us have his old pipes, you know, he threw them away and we had these old pipes. So we down there, those guys are trying to get theirs lit, they can't get it lit, and I took the tobacco I had and I got it lit, there was no problem. Finally those guys decided they'd smoke out of my pipe.
Oh yeah, we was down there right there off the end of the 40, down there by Harold's 40 there.
Yeah. You guys remember that?
Between that and swiping dead cigars. You get them cigars at a wedding. Maybe you didn't ever swipe those. But he never smoked them cigars. He didn't like them. He'd throw them up on the shelf. So we swiped some of them. I think I got sick enough on that junk I never cared to smoke.
Yeah, we can tell the bad stories. The other one I think we got a big kick out of too. You know, we was a little bit older. You know, we probably, well, we might not have been at quite legal age yet, but we were getting close. But once in a while, you know, you might have a few beers at night. We kind of got in the habit of we get close out here along the garden there, while we'd fling the beer bottles out of the car out in the ditch. Well, one day Dad was walking along the road there and he saw all these beer bottles. He's picking up beer bottles because then you get 2 cents a bottle for them. He said, man, look at all these beer bottles. Well, we kind of got together and decided we better not throw the beer bottles out along the garden anymore after that.
Well, you guys got me in trouble on that too. I was 29 years of age last time I got checked for the old enough. And it was in this day at Pole's Restaurant. I was with my father-in-law. And I got the driver's license out and showed it to them, and they didn't even want to serve me then yet. Finally, Julius got mad at them. They said, well, he's my son-in-law. That's him. After 28 years, here's the picture and everything. He's got his driver's license. But then I figured out what happened. So a couple days later, I ran into my brother's car. And so then I laughed and said, asked my brothers, I said, have you guys been over to Pole's Restaurant in Westphalia recently? and their faces changed colors.
I think it was Dale and me, though. I think it was us.
They couldn't have got Ed mixed up for me, could they? That didn't want to serve Ed. They would have never got him mixed up for me, I don't
What happened
think.
is this, that Al and Lou been told if they ever got in there and got served again, the guy was going to get shut down, and he was afraid. I was Al. He didn't want to go to the business time. I was 29 at the time, but I figured out what happened. I never said anything to the bartender. I told him all the trouble.
Well, I was thinking too, you know, he's not all lily white either, you know. You remember that 47 Chevy we had? You remember that hood was always sprung a little bit on that thing? That darn hood would never stay latched.
Nobody could ever figure out. It
Never
must have
figured
came that way.
It
Must have came that way.
took quite a few years before I found out the story on that.
What's the story?
Well, ask Ed.
Ed kind of was on a little slippery street in town one day, and he stopped right, you know, he kind of bumped a little tree right in front of where Helen Pung used to live. There's a story I got.
That was always sprung. Nobody ever figured that out.
The hood would never stay latched good. It would always pop up a little
Just
bit.
a little bit.
You'd never figure out why.
Nobody can understand.
Yeah, that's where Elmer used to go out with.
You missed the party.
That's probably when it happened.
Uh-oh, hello. Hey, Mark, hold on. This is coming off. Mark's coming off. What?
Well, I remember Ed having a party, and then he'd pay his brothers, when Mother and Dad were gone, he'd pay them by sticks of gum or something, or packs of gum. That was my understanding, that they wouldn't tell Mother and Dad. And Aunt Dory was here one time, and I can remember the next day, that woman had to be a saint. Here she is down on that floor. It was black. And she was down on her hands and knees cleaning it. And you know what I'm talking about?
She never said a word to Mother and Dad or anybody. She cleaned that floor. They had a heck of a party that night.
You probably just thought she never told them.
Well, the funny, I think it was probably that same party that they came out here with a lawnmower at night, and they mowed initials in the lawn.
Yeah, and we had to mow the lawn.
The next day, Edgar told us we had to mow the lawn. So when Mom and Dad got home from vacation, he says, "Wow, look at that! We're going on vacation, and he even mowed the lawn."
What initial they put out? I don't remember that.
I think it was Lee and Fox.
they
Seemed
were
like
right.
they put like LF.
They sure did. They put their
right
initials.
stuff
We
on
mowed
the
that
lawn. I
lawn.
ain't sure what was
I
all
think
us.
some of the guys they mowed their initials in the lawn.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
So I don't know how
They
he
did
got
all
us to
them
mow the
bad
lawn.
things, their initials, Dale, things like that.
Do you remember the first power mower that we got, and it was electric?
Electric, yeah.
Oh my God.
For this long.
Yeah, that was a serious mistake.
Well, we used it for several
Yeah.
years.
Made it easier and quicker.
Yeah, it was a lot easier. It took a long time.
But it was not built to take that big a yard.
No, but I think the secret was he could buy it quite a lot cheaper than he could for a power mower.
That's probably why. Yeah.
You talk about how when those guys always worked, though. You remember when they always thrashed? In the barn and that, we always had to go get all the eggs and all that picked up before they got here.
Oh, yeah.
Chickens would lay eggs all over the place. And them guys, they could drink it. Like I say, we always had that cider out there. If there was any eggs around, you can bet there'd be an egg fight. Mother would make us go get the eggs.
How about any thrashing stories?
Well, that's one of them. You know, the egg fight. You know, if they didn't get the eggs picked up, they'd sure as heck.
And when us guys were small, they would always bag the wheat on the thrashing machine, and them guys would always carry them bags from there to the granary. But in between, when we were small, they'd always try to get us kids in the bag, like we was a bag of wheat. Always did.
Uncle Louie Schmidt was a great hand at wanting to carry those bags. He was a tough guy. I remember that. They walked from this barn to the granary, and they had a plank going up into the granary like that. And he'd carry a bag that weighed 150 to 200. But they didn't have regular bags like, no, they were the big cloth ones that hold about 200 pounds.
They were heavy.
They were heavy. Now, when he put oats in there, it wasn't so bad.
But they would never put them on a wagon and haul a wagon down there. They'd put them on their shoulder and down they went.
That was their job. They said they didn't want to go on a mile where it was so dirty. They'd rather have the cleans out. They'd carry it away. Yeah, but that's where they carry it in there. And sometimes they carry it upstairs too.
I always remember that being Louie Schmidt and Urban Thalen and Ben Ulrich.
Yeah, Ben used to be, Ben would rather do that, stay clean, carry that, Ben and Uncle Ray.
How can I
But also,
see
they were
it?
close to the cider jug.
I think that had a lot to do with it. That cider jug was always closed. They'd hand that up to the model, those guys, but always had to come back down so they could watch it.
One thing we always had to do
keep it
was
up
fill a
there.
big tub of water out on that side of the house. We would set it on bricks or something, so that at noon when the men came in to eat, they would all get washed up in there. We have that towels and that out there.
They wash their hands and face.
Wash their hands and face in that one
Big tub.
They were never that dirty though.
Well, and it was always a thrill for the women. It'd get to be 4 o'clock, and then they moved to a new place, and he could feed about 16 men. Or else at 11 o'clock, and move to a new place.
Oh yeah, get there just before mealtime.
Yeah, have a meal before they went to work. Oh yeah. No, but they'd have a big bunch of them there. You helped with cooking the meals sometimes, Mother and Dad. You were the oldest there. I remember doing it.
That's why I fixed the corn and the noodles. That was always one of the things that one of the dishes with that cream corn and the noodles and that was one of the big.
Because those guys could eat, yeah. They worked and stuff like that. It was all physical labor.
So maybe you should call about Saturday night baths too. Well, we got a bath once a week if we're dirty or not.
That's right. Kind of the
Oh yeah.
They put a big wash tub there. And
But you didn't all get clean water, just the first clump. We couldn't waste it.
That was still that way when you had the bathtub too. You wouldn't.
yeah.
Not everybody got the new water. Every so many, then wasn't that
Saturday night bath.
I was just saying with
But
the,
it was whether it was necessary or not. Every Saturday night, that was your night for the bath.
But the biggest thing though, didn't you have it set up at that time so the hot water came through the furnace? That was it. You didn't have a hot water heater. Wasn't it through the furnace? Through the stove. Through the
And
stove.
cook stove too.
Cook stove too.
Started the kitchen stove.
well, the kitchen stove that was at Reservoir.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at one time they had that pipe that went in the stove.
They went right in it. Yes,
Because that's what blew up that time.
I can remember when that pipe blew up on a Sunday morning on that the one that went through the stove. The water
I
all over
remember
the
it
floor.
well. I was one of the ping pong players. I don't know who my partner was, but when the stove.
You were in the kitchen.
Yeah, hit my back.
I was standing
right.
right. I was standing in the doorway right there between the kitchen and the dining room.
Barely got missed, but I don't know who my partner was.
Because I remember I ran out the barn because Dad was out the barn. I ran out the barn door. I said the stove blew up. you know how the stove could blow up, but he came in.
No, I don't remember that. I'm always remembering that.
I don't remember here.
They also was on Sunday morning.
I remember that little round kerosene heater that we had. We used to set in the washroom for
Oh, when you did laundry? Yeah, I remember that thing.
that thing would every once in a while would blow up. And, you know,
Catch on fire. Yeah, or just get all smoky.
Turn him around.
the one heater in the dining room before we put the furnace in.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
Mark,
Let him go fast.
with Monica right there. Put him on the other swing.
Or the other side. Make
Put him on the other swing.
Turn it.
any stories about getting together with cousins or?
Oh,
Well, you
yes,
mentioned-
we always had so much fun playing kick the can and ball games, eeny, any over, ball games.
Sunday afternoons, Grandpa umpiring from the front porch sometimes when we were down there.
We disagreed.
But when you talk about the ball games, usually Grandpa, but Dad would always come out and pitch for both sides. No matter if the neighbors came over, whoever came over. Well, your dad will pitch. Somebody'd always go get Dad. He'd come out there and he'd pitch for both sides. Always.
Well, and then during the summer, probably about, I'd say 2 or 3 times at least during the summer, we'd go down to Schmidt's. Of course, that was our grandpa and grandma's house too, but Uncle Louie and Nori, we'd go down there and spend the afternoon down there. And of course, when you went down there, our Aunt Nori always insisted that we'd eat there before we leave. And of course, you know, we'd have something to eat, and then we'd come home, and Mother would always ask us, "Did you eat?" You know, and we'd say, "Yeah, we ate," or we wouldn't tell, or we'd say we didn't eat, and we'd eat again.
And mother would give us strict instructions not to eat this time.
Yeah.
You just have to appreciate Aunt Nora. She was really a good cook too. And the more she would give us, and Mother would give us, "No, don't you eat when you're down there."
Well, then I remember one time she told us we had to come home earlier, so we'd come home earlier, so we couldn't eat there. Well, of course, when we'd get there, Norie'd ask us, "Well, what time do you have to go home?" So we'd tell her. She'd always have dinner ready for us a half hour before we had to go home. You had to eat. So then we'd get home here, and we couldn't tell Ma we ate. You know, we had to sit down here and eat again.
Well, I just remember sitting on the porch after dinner at that time and watching to see if that's what
Oh yeah. It didn't have TV. It didn't even have much of a radio.
One thing that we were talking about all the time, Louie and I and Jim, when we were riding back today, when we go by Ernst up here, they always had that terrible dog out there. And that dog would come out and just chomp at you and chomp at you, and you were just hoping when you got to go by that dog wasn't there. We'd even go all around Claude sometimes just to avoid that dog. Oh, I'll never forget that dog. He would always be there. He'd sit there on the porch. You knew it.
Did anyone talk about that ping pong game? No, we, at first, we begged, we want to play ping pong, so we got the paddles and the net, and we used the kitchen table. It was in the garage, we put it in the garage. And Dad decided he wanted to play ping pong too, so he started to play ping pong with us, and we'd always beat him, and so we'd laugh, and pretty soon, he just kept on playing, and pretty soon he was beating us.
He played that a long time.
Oh, yeah, he's good at it too, even when he was older.
He liked that shorter table, though, because he got accustomed to it. And if he got to a full-size table, he was dead because he had all that. No, but on that short table, he could really play.
Because he could leave his feet planted and just move his hands.
Yeah.
He'd keep up with most people.
Well, he had that down there in the basement later on. Yeah.
One thing we always had, we played a lot of games, so especially Monopoly, we played by the hours, but we changed the rules so that kind of stood up.
By the way, did you bring your Monopoly game along?
No. I still got one. At home, not here.
He still likes Park Place.
Another thing that we would always think that they would do today, they would always butcher during the winter. And then they'd butcher the beef out in the barn, and then in the cellarway, that's not there anymore, but right over there where the cellarway is, they'd always hang that quarter of beef in there. Boy, that was good, because then we got our steak. There was no refrigeration at that time where you had a refrigerator or a freezer. They'd go in there every so often and cut some off, and that was our steak. It was a real treat.
Ray, do you remember when we had that smokehouse over there, where they used to smoke the hams in? And then they put them in brine too, in the salt brine.
Well, you say brine too.
El contested me on that.
So there's a salt brine. We had to rub them with salt, put them in a salt brine, and they would soak so long. Then we'd take them in the smokehouse, and they would smoke them so long. Then we would get these Robin Hood flour bags that were empty, and you tie them in real tight and seal them. And he had a place in the granny that he had all sealed in. It's still in there.
Edgar, I showed the kids. The pipes are still hanging there and all that, what you're talking about. I showed the kids when we were out there where that was.
Yeah, that's what we did. And then in the middle of summer, he'd go get one of those out of there, yet they'd still be good.
Oh, they'd be just as good, just no matter how hot it was. Yeah.
But now, that was paper bags. I don't know what we used before that, because I also remember, what was it that was flour we got in them. What was that? Well, we got those cloth bags, and after a while you made them into dish towels and curtains. And
Oh, that was flour too. One time they used cloth.
so I don't know.
But you still had the kind that Edgar did with that. You put over those out there. I remember that too.
I remember that.
But I think those bags that we used for the ham, they were those flour bags, but I think they bought them that way. They just bought the flour bag.
Well, maybe they
I
did.
think they bought them empty. Yeah, that could be. Pretty
But
sure
yes,
they did.
Marie, I can remember the cloth bags where they bought flour in
that
too.
used to be your towels for drying dishes and stuff like that. Yeah.
And these kids thought of something new with recycling.
No, they bleached them out, didn't they? They did them, bleached them out, and they used them for dish towels. But no, the smokehouse, some of you younger ones might not remember that. I tore it down.
I can vaguely remember. Didn't they used to also store? Where was it? Was the gas? Them gas 50-gallon drums stored the other one right beside it. Then
No, that was a barrel of kerosene. It was just inside the door in the granary. In the granary, there was kerosene. He had that kerosene barrel there. It was sitting up on end, and then he would tip it down. Put kerosene. Draw kerosene out of it. Draw kerosene strictly for the kerosene stoves and kerosene heater and like that. That's what he did. Yeah, I remember that being there. Yeah. That was sitting right there all the time. Yeah, and then he would tip it down and had a spigot on it. Fill a 5-gallon can. Set the barrel back up again.
Well, I always remember our first water system too. On Monday morning, if it wasn't windy, then we used to have to crank the pump by hand to get water in. If it was windy, we were all set. Watch out, there was a ground setting up on,
Right there, Dale.
on the north side. And,
They used to be up in the northwest corner of the house.
okay, I gotta ask you a question. Did you ever use the cistern?
No, but it was there. That's where that one space where you walked in. It was there.
We never.
We never used it.
Not that I know of.
No, not that I remember ever using it. The cistern was there when I was there, but it wasn't used by us.
Because we had soft water anyway.
Yeah. Was the cistern was designed? Did the downspouts run into the cistern? Yeah, they used to. They used to have the eavesdrops in it. But we never used the cistern at all. I think. Is that space still there now, or is it just?
No, that's still there.
So it's just unused space, right?
Yeah, we never touched it.
It's still there then.
It was quite thick too. It was concrete all the way around.
Yeah, that time when they had concrete, they'd always have them big stones in it too.
Yeah.
More like a concrete mortar mix.
And they used to, well, at first we used to raise the potatoes, but after a while they would, Dad and Ben York and Louie Schmidt, and I think maybe Leonard Simmons, they went up to Stanton and we'd buy their potatoes. And wasn't Simmons Brothers, didn't they truck up some?
Sometimes, I was thinking it was a Simmons from Palama that truck. They had different ones different times.
Simmons Brothers did it a couple times too.
Anyway, we kept about, I got here 30 to 35 bushels for ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They
And
did
then we used to take some to the convent.
Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget. Towards the end, when they would do that, they would only get 5 or 10 bushel. But part of the procedures to getting those potatoes was each one of those guys would always have a bottle of booze. And the one year they came home, when they came to our place, that's when Ben was sicker. When Ben was at that cancer, if I remember right. I think that was the year. But Marv Thale stopped here because they had potatoes for him, and Louie was here. And every time when they would get through unloading potatoes, then they'd always have to have a round to drink on whoever bottle it was. Well, we helped unload here. And then, oh come on, you can come down to Louie Schmidt's too. Well, we all went down to Louie Schmidt's, and Louie and Marv and I found Louie Schmidt's bottle, and it was a pint, and it was about half empty. Well, Louie and Marv and I quick emptied the doggone thing and filled it half full of water. And put it back in there and didn't say a word. And Louie Schmidt, when they get all done, Louie Schmidt hands that bottle first. Well, we got him a bottle, drink. Hands that bottle to Leonard Simmons. Leonard Simmons tips it up. What's... And he's just, Louie Schmidt, what's the matter? Louie takes one. That's water. Never forget that.
That Does everybody remember the 2 stairways up and 2 stairways down?
I remember that. Not the
See,
2
no,
up.
I don't.
Yeah. There was a stairway from mother's bedroom to the dining room.
I thought where the bathroom was.
Now, where the dining room and the bedroom was at, in between there was a stairway.
That went to the basement.
That went to the basement.
Oh,
yeah.
no, but up, the basement I do, yeah.
Well, where your bathroom door is now, up. That
There
one.
used to be one up.
Yeah,
I thought.
where the bathroom
The up ones were on the other, the up was behind it, but the down was on the other end of it.
I don't remember the one.
You say there was 2 bed places you went upstairs?
Oh, yeah. The one where it is now and the other one where their bathroom door is now.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember the second
remember
one.
we had the
It
pantry.
went up Marie, then it went up and made the turn going up there, if I remember right.
I don't
The
remember
one by
that.
the bathroom door.
You sure that didn't go out when the bathroom came in
Yeah,
then?
it did.
It did, yeah.
Okay, then that's why I don't remember.
You guys remember the pantry? Oh, yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
I don't.
Well, that
Well,
probably,
you went, that was gone.
was that where the bathroom was?
Yeah, the pantry was where the bathroom was.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
See, then that other stairs going upstairs, I don't remember either.
Remember, we used to get the Easter eggs in the barn,
Yeah.
Oh,
and I never, ever remember that an animal touched them. Did you ever hear of candy and Easter eggs there?
no.
Yeah. Chocolate bunnies and all that stuff.
Easter Bunny always came during the night. We got up and we went out there. They were always spread all around the barn, and that was a real treat. All they were colored boiled eggs, but Easter Bunny brought them.
The Easter rabbit pulled the wagon around.
Yeah, on Easter morning we'd gather the eggs before we milked the cows.
Oh, of course, yeah. I can remember times getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning a couple of times to get those eggs.
Can you imagine kids getting up today for boiled eggs?
Remember praying the rosary before Santa Claus?
Oh, yes.
That was wrong.
Yeah, upstairs.
And then the thing is, when the rosary was all done, Dad would call us. But like one year, you know, I mean, he would start at the last one. And then one year it may be, well, let's start at Ron, Jim, Al down, and then the next year it would be Jim, Al down. Then all of a sudden it'd be Al, Lou, Doris, and then all of a sudden I was the only one. I mean, the others always came, but the rosary was always set, and then Santa always came when that rosary was finished. Always.
Never showed up.
Prayers were answered then.
Right. But it's amazing how that went, though.
There'd be endless stories about the hay slings.
Yeah, you and Marina Dale did it to me.
What do they do? Pull you up on the swing?
I was trying to wait to the ceiling of the barn and let it go. I went
Pull the
down.
trick to that roost.
That'd be better than a bungee jump, wouldn't it?
I got it right. It didn't stop when I stopped.
They thought they did some of the bungee jumps. We had that all figured
I
out.
was lucky, you know, I was knocked out, but I got up and walked away from it. So.
Now, did Dad know that was going on?
No, mother was in the barn before I woke up. They went and ran me that mother.
Yeah, we took his ways there.
Oh, so you got knocked out.
I came through and no mother was there.
When you talk about the slings, Jim, you can still see that on your hand, can't you? Where you got your, you got one time when we pull it out, we'd always pull that rope back. For some reason, I can't remember why it wasn't quite far enough, and they rehooked on. When they rehooked on, Jim was pulling back, and he got his hand in the pulley.
Well, we had yelled to stop. And you guys, whoever was out there, I know you were on the tractor, and you misunderstood. You misunderstood and thought you had to go a little further, and I wasn't paying attention. I didn't realize they hooked it back on. I had my hand on the rope. And you took off of the tractor, and my hand went right into the pulley. See, that's still got it.
And he looked at all over, and it was bleeding bad, and everybody, at that time, he didn't have all that kind of money, and come to the house and washed it off, and that'll be okay. That'll be okay.
Think of suing the rope company.
I should have in the pulley and on the tractor.
That was the end of it. Never got to fix it. You can see where it is now, where it happened. You remember that then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard for a while. Well, see, the thing is, you didn't hardly treat it, and then within a matter of a few days, it got infected. Then for a long time, every day I was soaking that thing in Epsom salt to get rid of the infection. You know, we don't go to the doctor for something like that.
Yeah, you had that Epsom salt for medicine, right?
Sure.
Serves a lot of purpose.
Now, if he was real sick, then you'd get some whiskey and some sugar and all that.
Oh, the killer was though if you had a urine. Then you got the pipe.
Yeah, the pipe, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Tell that.
Right?
Dad would put his hanky over your ear and he'd take a puff out of the pipe and blow it in there.
Well,
I
no,
thought he'd
would-
blow backwards.
no,
He'd
would
blow the
take
pipe backwards.
Yeah, he would. What he'd do to us is he'd put the hanky over the pipe, the bowl of the pipe,
He'd blow
and then he
backwards.
would blow through that and blow the smoke
He'd
into your
put that
ears.
other part in your ear.
So he'd blow that hot smoke
That'd
into your
kill that
ear,
infection.
that hot air. But then, of course, every once in a while, you kind of get a hot ash through there, too. You know? Didn't feel very good.
Sure would clear right up though.
Yeah, well, you go back to bed.
Boy, and those whiskey slings, that was something I never
That whiskey and it was hot water or warm water. and
Warm
sugar.
water, yeah.
Warm water and sugar.
If you had a bad cold, that was the treatment for the bad cold.
Sherry isn't here. I forgot
He'd pour a
about
couple
all those-
shots in the glass,
all those
a little
remedies
sugar
we
and
had.
warm water. You'd pour that down, you'd go to bed.
Oh,
You missed the one on here.
Sweat.
Yeah, Sherry could
Yeah.
have learned a lot of medicine.
I think there was something. I don't know if you have earaches today like that, did you? That must have been. I don't know if kids have earaches like we did. But you'd actually get a little round ring of infection in the ear. I don't really know what it was.
Oh, they get
I don't
now. You
think
get a
it's-
shot for it now.
Yeah, maybe
If
that's it.
you get something like infection like that today,
Would it take a couple,
you go to the
3-4
doctor,
days
they
to
give you
clear
medicine
up
for
again?
it right away. That's why.
See, Grandpa would blow smoke in there to cure that.
Sure that worked.
I don't know if he believed in it or if he was just trying to pacify us or what. I ain't sure.
By the way, there
Did
was
he really believe in it or what was the deal?
Cindy. There was one other savior of the world as far as Sister Agnes was concerned. Doris came along.
That was the savior?
Yeah, she was no longer the baby girl.
Yeah, she never did like to be called.
She never liked being called the baby girl.
Prayed a lot for
Then
that.
Doris
didn't ya?
came along and she was no longer the baby
Remember
girl.
having 4 younger brothers behind her, and they
Yeah.
all call her baby.
But I
You figure out
also
that.
remember that Dad told us that Doris was going to be was a boy when he came home. And so when I went to the community, I was to choose a name, and I never liked the name Ignatius. There was Ignatius was one of our relatives. So I told Dad that was the name I was going to take. He went perfectly quiet. Because he was fearful I was going to do it. He had something with that. But I remember telling him that.
I think he thought it was the worst name in the world.
He
didn't
did. He did. But he never said a word to me after that. Well, do you remember going out to the barn and skimming the cream off the milk and getting
ice
ice
cream.
out of the tank? Every Sunday. It was a very good ice cream in wintertime.
In the wintertime.
Oh, that was delicious.
Oh yeah, and we
That was a treat because you didn't go to the freezer and get out some ice cream because they didn't have any.
QD wasn't open though.
homemade ice cream. You'd crank that freezer in the morning and pack it down. After dinner at night, we cleaned that.
You know, we've been talking a lot, but we haven't heard the whole thing from the perspective of the youngest member of the family. I haven't really heard her at all. Because we haven't given her an opportunity.
She has a different view than you have.
Yeah.
I remember some of the things that you're talking about, but a lot of the things that you're talking about, I don't.
What'd you do then in your time?
She was television age, Marie. Sat in front of the TV.
Well, that was a question. Were we the first ones that got TV in the neighborhood? Because I remember when we got
Arnold probably was first.
then why do I remember
Hammer
that
Snickers.
when we got that TV, we had a big party, and I remember the chairs.
Well,
Yeah,
Oh, there
a
was
lot of people did not.
There
have
was a big boxing match, Doris.
Oh, was that it?
People came over to watch
yeah,
the
Schmitz
boxing.
came down. Schmitz didn't have a TV yet.
A lot of people did, but
Dad was
Harold
big
had,
on that
Harold
boxing.
had a TV before us.
There was a boxing
He really
match
liked
when
boxing.
I forget what this Cuban was fighting Chuck David, and that was supposed to be the big fight, and there was a technical knockout like in the first
Here, I
first
thought it
round,
was.
and Schmitz got down here like the start of the second round, or it would have been the start of the second round, and we said it's over. You know, they didn't believe us. Of course, they didn't have instant replay then, so you couldn't see it.
Maybe I could tell one about Doris though too. I can remember I always thought Doris was probably going to be the painter. You remember when you decided to get the paint can out and you went around the north side of the house?
Oh, if my kids could hear you telling that.
And they started painting that wall. And she had quite a bit of it painted before anybody caught her painting that side of the house. You remember that, Doris?
Silver. I tell my kids that.
Oh, you remember that?
Kim
Oh, we scrubbed to get that paint off that house. I'll never forget that. You know what I'm talking about.
How old have I been then? Do you know?
I can't say for sure, but I won't forget you doing it, though.
I remember it, but I don't remember how old I was.
Did you tell your kids that?
Oh yeah, they wanted me to tell that.
I remember going
the video before.
Oh, she wouldn't tell that.
Cindy, what can you tell?
Oh yeah, we had a deep freeze before we had TV.
All different from those stories.
We didn't have a telephone when I was here.
So when you talk about a telephone, I can't remember it except I can remember Mother and Dad talking about it. When Mother and Dad moved in here, there was a telephone here.
Yeah.
The telephone went out because of the depression from listening to Mother and Dad. I wouldn't remember it except I can remember them telling me that.
Ron
So then
then
a telephone never came back until we was in high school.
Ron put that telephone in. They didn't want that.
Oh really?
Yeah, he put
Because
that
he
in.
was working, when he started working for Millers, he needed to be able to get calls, you know, when they would, you know, either not go to work or go to work sometime or whatever. Where he had to go to. Yeah, where he had to report. He did that. And I was going to say, I'll bet you I was probably a senior in high school when we got there.
Well, I know I was in high school when we got it.
What was
No
our
doubt.
ring then? We were 3 shorts and a long one. We got married. 4 shorts and a long. When the phone rang over the whole neighborhood, you just had different rings for yourself? Everybody could pick it up anytime they wanted it.
Yeah, usually had about 6 or 8 people in line.
Yeah, they would allow as many as 10.
Well, I found out tonight though that I was lucky because when the girls were talking, they said that the older ones, when they sat down to a meal, if there wasn't something they liked, they had to eat it, no matter what. But as I remember it, I don't ever remember if I didn't like something that I had to eat it. I just had to find something else on the table. And of course, there was always homemade bread, so sometimes we just had bread and butter if we didn't like anything else. But we weren't forced to eat it. So I guess.
Yeah, but see, you were the baby. See, you got favorite.
Were you forced?
Huh?
Were you forced to try it?
Oh, we always had to try everything.
You had to eat everything. Oh, yes.
Well, you guys are.
Oh no, we had to eat everything.
The
but if we
boards
didn't
under
like
the
it.
table.
What was that, Lloyd?
The boards under the table. You had brace boards under that kitchen table. They're down about yay far. And that held the boards for extending the table. But there was room in there, and if there was something you couldn't stand, it all lets it sneak under there.
He did that.
I think everybody in this group did that one. Look at that, he's not going nuts with that one. You don't want to forget
Is
that.
that where you put your peaches, Roy?
I don't know, but there was a lot of food got wasted out of there, so we
It
could get
happens.
dessert. I didn't forget that.
Every once in a while, then they'd find it. You know, they clean those boards out. Somebody didn't like
I
something.
think everybody in here has done that at one time or another.
You're right, Lou. That table had that.
Does everybody remember the Farm Bureau, the Oldsmobile, and the REA picnics?
Oh.
Oh yeah.
I remember the Oldsmobile thing.
The Oldsmobile picnic, I'll remember for one reason forever. We went to the Oldsmobile picnic. Remember that? And you could have all the ice cream you wanted, all the pop you wanted. What was the other thing?
What hot dogs?
Hot dogs. And I'll never forget Brother Ron that night at home.
Oh, he
So sick. And, oh.
Well, didn't Donnie Schmidt get sick at one of them too?
Yeah, well, Donnie was with us that time. You could have all you wanted. And we would be back and forth.
see, you have to appreciate, we didn't have ice cream every time. We
Not
wanted
during
to
the
open the
summer.
refrigerator door.
Well, we never had ice cream in the summertime.
No.
Except that you didn't know Grandpa Schneider sitting in Fowler. We knew exactly when to walk past him.
Oh yeah, you'd go by him. He was at the Millers there, sitting in front of the bench. You'd go on Saturday afternoon if you get Dad to take you along, and he gave you, then you could go. He knew what we wanted, so we go by Grandpa Schneider and we talked to him. And we friendly, we talked to him a little bit, and he'd always give us a nickel. He says, "Now don't go here and get the ice cream. This place he's sitting in front of using their bench." He says, "Don't buy the ice cream here. Go next door. Willie Simmons right down there. Go see him. He'll give you a bigger cone." So we go to Simmons.
Now that I don't remember.
Oh yeah, you should remember that.
That I don't remember.
I remember passing Grandpa
You?
Schneider.
Yeah, I'd rather remember that.
Because he was hugging
Yes, Chris.
Roy, do you remember that when he did that to the cones? Yeah. You go down, Art Simmons was down there, and we go down to Art's.
We go to the drugstore too, though.
But primarily at our time, it was Art Simmons who goes. That's where he goes to go.
Edgar, another thing that wouldn't happen today that I can remember. My birthday was March 17th. That was Grandpa Schneider's birthday. For me, he always brought a present down. Because my birthday was on his birthday. At that time, Grandpa didn't bring everybody birthday presents, but I got one because my birthday was the same day as his. Yeah, see, March 17th.
But I always remember Grandpa Schneider. We watched though at night when that car came about 20 miles an hour, that black 36 Chevrolet.
I think it was a 36
And they'd always
Chevrolet.
bring us a little second candy.
Yeah, I'd like to know, was there really much candy in there? Because from a child's eyes, I guess it always seemed like a lot.
To us, it probably was a lot because we didn't have
get
it.
any.
We didn't get any.
But I meant, was it a couple pieces that we just thought
Oh, it
was
was
so
Dale,
fun?
both ways,
You don't
uphill and in the
Oh,
wind,
yeah,
you
it was a
know,
little
walking to
sack.
school.
We just divided it.
Ray,
We
you
were
remember?
Oh, we got our own, as I remember.
Ray, you remember?
But you got to remember, we didn't have
Grandpa
candy other than that.
I know.
He used to go in the back closet in his house, and he'd always get us was it a Snickers candy bar or something like that? One kind of a Milky Way or something like that. Because he'd always go in there, he'd always have a candy bar for us, and that was always a big treat if he'd tell her to go over there. I remember that.
But the younger member of the family, you got the older small.
I remember getting my own sack of candy from Grandma. What about Lou or Al?
Oh, I don't remember. The other thing you can remember when you talk about candy, when Dad and them went to Lansing or St. John's, us kids, bring some candy back. And he would bring some kind of candy back most of the time. But one thing, he would only hand it to one of us kids, whichever it was, pass it around. And believe me, if one, until it was passed out evenly. And if there had been a fight over somebody got more candy or not, you knew better than that because the next time there was no candy. But you'd count them out. Whatever, I don't care if there were pieces of candy, you'd count them out. Everybody got the same amount.
Do you remember that Dad always had to pay $5 a year, which they called wood money, to the church, and that was tuition for our family to go to school?
Oh, I didn't remember
And you
the
remember
amount.
pew rent?
You ran, I remember.
You remember we only had a place for one. Eventually we had a place for two, and then when you had a big family, oh man, you get security bucks.
Yeah, because you couldn't go in these people's pews because they paid for that pew. That was theirs.
But they also ran out of spaces. You couldn't buy anymore.
Yeah, but no, people paid so much for that spot. That was their pew. Uncle Louie Schmitz were about 2 seats ahead of us. These are Grandpa and they were about 2 seats ahead of ours. We were on the right side of the church, about a third of the way down, on the right side going down.
And you can't get through any of these without a Father Esther discussion.
We told a story today about that.
I don't know, Mother was always upset about the time Jim, and I think it was Dick Fink. Did you sing with him one time or something? And you went over, it was you and somebody else, and you went over there after he wanted to see you guys, and he gave you both a card, and the other kid had $5 and you had nothing.
That was Gladys Worth.
Oh, that was, oh, she was so upset about that.
Yeah, well, the Worth family were always they were kind of favorites of his. I didn't remember the exact details of it, but I can remember. Well, first of all, I sang the song in German, Oh, Dear Little Children. I sang it for the Daughters of Isabella, for the Ladies Society. And then they've also had to play in school for the school kids. But then Gladys sang with me when they had it for the school kids and for Father Esper. And it was after that, then he had us both come over to the rectory, and I didn't remember the details of that. But.
Oh, I heard that story more than once, many times. I often felt that Mother wasn't sure he went to heaven.
One thing about Father Esper, I think corporal punishment was approvable at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Father Esper didn't like me.
Did he let you know?
Oh yeah, I got kicked out of the first meeting class.
That's an existing
I got kicked out too.